Good morning, everyone, and welcome back once again to another session on polity and constitution. I hope I am audible as well as visible. Okay, so let's begin now. Over the course of last weekend, we covered a lot of ground. We looked into the union territories, we looked into Article 370, Schedule 5 areas, Schedule 6 areas, emergency provisions, and also center state relations, starting with firstly federalism, various aspects of federalism. So we have the unitary features, the federal features, the cooperative features, the asymmetric features, the competitive features, and then center state relations, the administrative relations, the legislative relations. And now what's left is the issues in financial relationship, and once we are done, we'll discuss fundamental rights. Okay, so a small, maybe around half an hour topic is left, and with that we'll be done with our public administration side of events. Okay, so that's it. Welcome to the morning session. A slight inconvenience. I'm extremely sorry for the inconvenience, guys. You had to wake up slightly early today, also. Nevertheless, we'll make full use of the day and cover some very interesting topics, largely once we delve into fundamental rights. As usual, whenever we have any session, we begin with a few questions to see as to how you have been studying. So, 5 questions for today, starting with the very first question, and please mark your answer. Which of the following statements is not correct? I hope you had seen this part. Not correct. So he should be a judge of High Court, duly qualified, of course. He can be appointed only after consultation. Consultation is important. Whether consultation is binding or not, that was secondary as a point. But consultation is important. He's he's appointed when there is a lack of quorum. Yes, when there is no quorum, then The CJI can appoint a high court judge, can ask him to attend the Supreme Court when there is lack of quorum. So the president can appoint, no, no, not the president, it's the Chief Justice of India who will appoint with the consultation, or with, sorry, with the consent of the president. His consent is required, but the appointment is made by the CJI. So this is a wrong statement, hence A is the right answer. Okay, moving on. Second question. Okay. With respect to financial emergency, there is no maximum period prescribed for its operation in the Constitution. Absolutely correct. There is a maximum period only for the president's rule, and that is 3 years. There is no maximum period for either the financial emergency or the national emergency. Repeated parliamentary approval is not required. Absolutely correct. Repeated approval after every 6 months is required for national emergency and the president's rule. They need to be approved every 6 months. Financial emergency, nothing is mentioned for this in the constitution where the repeated approval is required. So both are correct. C is the right answer. Moving on to the next question. Oh, today is a very strange day. A lot of you are getting all the answers wrong. Uh, Improper. So we know what is a proper situation. When can president's rule be imposed? On three grounds only, right? If the state government works against secularism, if the state government does not follow a central direction, Article 365, or if no party can form the government. Everything else is an improper situation, meaning the president's rule should not be imposed. Whether it is maladministration, allegation of corruption, these are not reasons to impose president's rule. Just three reasons. So this would be an improper reason. This would be an improper reason. So of course, A, 1 and 2 only. Remember the slide we had mentioned 3 points only as being proper reasons. Moving on to the fourth question. Okay. So the Supreme Court shall sit in Delhi or any other place. The seat of Supreme Court, the CJI decides, and of course, with the approval of the what? Tell me, whose approval is required? Of course, it's the president whose approval is required, not the parliament. So 3 is wrong. D, 1 and 2. And last question for today. Very simple, very easy. Oh, again, you fell prey to this. The question does not talk about the Schedule 5 areas only. It also incorporates the element of TAC, Tribal Advisory Council. So there were certain states which do have TAC, like Tamil Nadu, like West Bengal, and also Uttarakhand. So in such a situation, these 3 states do have TAC, but Karnataka does not. So that would be the appropriate answer in this question, right? Tamil Nadu plus West Bengal plus Uttarakhand. Done. We are done with 5 questions for the day. Now, just one small topic and then we'll move forward. But before that, let me show you the leaderboard as well. 3 people getting all correct: Tulsi, Niranjan, and Pooja. No, no. 4 correct. Nobody got all correct. Oh, this is what we have come down to. Not getting all correct also. Tulsi, Niranjan, Pooja. Then Ravi getting 3 correct. Amit, Gaurav, Sharlin, Shahid, Ananya, Vanita, Karan, all of you getting 2 correct. 1 correct also is in the list. Okay. Anyway, let's continue. Now, in the last week, we saw this provision pertaining to the limitations on the center states with respect to what are the areas where the states cannot impose taxes. Now we'll just look at the issues in the center state financial relationship, and once we're done, we'll move forward. Excuse me. First things first, let me just clarify one point here. In case you are not aware that the central government is allowed to borrow from outside the country and from within the country. Center allowed to borrow from outside the country or from inside or within the country. Okay, that's it. States need permission of the parliament to borrow. That's a problem. States need parliament's permission. Without the parliament's permission, states cannot borrow. This is Article 293. Okay. Now, what's the concern here? The states raise a very, very legitimate concern. And that concern is that when we borrow and we need funds, we always have to borrow through the center. Firstly, we borrow from the center borrow from outside and gives the fund to us. Just to help you understand, something like this will happen. Let us say IMF is going to give some money. So IMF is giving, say, $500 million in some or for some task, setting up some project, etc. This money comes to the government of India, central government. Now, central government will further send this money to the concerned state. This is how the structure flows. That the central government, just a minute, guys. Okay. So, central government will send the money to the states. Now, states say that what happens is these IMF etc. give to us the loan at very soft interest rates, maybe at the rate of 3%. Let's say IMF is giving the loan at the interest rate of 3%. Central government, what it is going to do now is it will forward this loan to the states at 3.05%. They'll charge some extra 0.05%. Why? It's like they say that we are wasting some money in handling the loan. Some administrative expenditure goes in maintaining the loan. And in that garb, they charge some commission from the state government. State government says that it is not a money meant for us only. You are acting like this is a money meant for some party. When the money comes to a state, the money is being used for the people of this country only eventually. So there is no sense when when one level of government starts charging commission from the other level of government. Where is the cooperation here? So one allegation is that center charges commission from states. This is allegation number one. And second allegation is that when center devolves funds, it will never devolve all 500 million together. It will always devolve in tranches. 50 million, then request again, 50 million, then keep on crying, request again, 50 million. This causes delay in the implementation of the project and also unnecessarily puts the state at the mercy of the center. I mean, see, the state say that if you are having this feeling that what if there is a misuse? CAG is already there who is auditing all the expenditure. then what's this fear of misuse, right? So this is again a concern that funds devolved or funds sent only in installments, not at the same time, right? Not at the same time. So this is there. Nikhil, but CAG only does a post-mortem. Yes, yes, of course. So when the money has already been spent by the concerned state government, what can the center do, right? And it's not that the project is complete within a year. Projects run for 6-8 years, right? So it only may be a case that maybe one installment can be saved by the central government, telling the state some condition, right? Maybe, but before that, the CAG report comes, right? So this effectiveness of check may not happen. That's again the concern. Point number one. Now, second is excessive central dominance over fiscal resources. So state say that center controls every possible resource. I mean, the most important taxes like income tax, like corporate tax, these are all controlled by the center. Now, center gives an argument. Why do we control all these important taxes? Very simple reason. The reason is center has to ensure a balanced regional development. Balanced regional development. Every area needs to be balanced accordingly, right? Second thing is the defense of the country. Since center has the task to ensure the defense of the country, that's again one reason why the insistence that we need to control all the funds. Now state said, see, defense we agree, you are managing the armed forces, ensuring the safety security of the country, but this balance region development we are not really sure for, I mean, how far this is correct. And this is true also. I mean, if Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Gujarat are a few states where 50% of the country's industrial production lies, then where is the balance? There is no balanced regional development. Some landlocked states are suffering, devoid of any kind of project, etc. Whereas other states are getting all new projects, and this gap is widening. It's like an ever widening gap. It never seems to be plugged only. So this is a concern. Then pay commission awards. What is pay commission? Pay commission refers to salary increase commission, a commission which is set up to revise the salary for salary revision. Now, we had the recently the seventh pay commission, before that the sixth pay commission, etc. So, what is this, or why is this a problem? So, here also, very simple to understand. See, assume these are two buildings located side by side or nearby. This is an income tax building, and this is an excise department building. Now, please tell me, income tax building houses which type of officers? Central government or state government? Tell me. Of course, the central government officers. And excise department houses state government officers. Now think of this. Central government salary is revised every 10 years. That's why the seventh pay commission. Now let's assume there is some group C official, a clerical staff here. His salary from 25,000 has now increased to 35,000 per month because of the pay commission. Now look at a group C employee here. His salary is 25,000 or say 24,000, whatever. Now, if the group C employee sees a situation in the next building where the same type of officer or official performing almost similar task has now seen an increase in his or her salary, he will also want the increase. Then he'll make the demand to the state government that state government, please increase my salary. Now, state government or central government can very easily increase salaries. It has all the resources. It can borrow from outside to increase the salary. State governments cannot. But the problem is that if the salary of a corresponding official has increased at central government, state government employees will harass the state government, union, etc., strike, hartal, that no, increase our salary. And the state governments are forced into increasing the salary, right? So the state governments only say that whenever you are increasing salary of your own employees, please take us also on board and devolve extra funds for us also, because we also will have to increase the salary of our employees. Take states on board with respect to revision of salary. Clear? And lastly, I'll tell you a very interesting point. It is all about resources, right? Money, revenue generation. If I ask you here, what is an area, a domain which can yield lot of revenue for any government? Tell me, what areas does the government tax that yield revenue? No, tax is not revenue. You are taxing something. That is how the tax comes. So what can you tax? Okay, somebody says mining. Okay, fair enough. Mines, minerals, agreed. Very lucrative topic. What else? Again, see, don't say tax. You are taxing some commodity. Tell me what? Okay, companies, industries. Let's use a very generic word, industries. What else? Wines, tobacco, these are all basically not just products, but largely we have covered them under industries. Industries. Any kind of industry. What else? Export, etc. Okay. Trade and commerce. Done. Simple. Right? I have taken the whole sector only, which covers everything. Now, if I ask you, mines and minerals are under which list? Or industries are under which list? Central list or state list? You'll be surprised to know that all these topics are under state list. They are all state list topics. Mines and minerals, entry number 23. Industries, entry number 24. Trade and commerce, entry number 26. All lucrative subjects like mines, industries, they are in the state list. But there is a small catch. The catch is that there is correspondingly one entry in the union list also, which says that The parliament can also make laws to regulate mines and minerals if it is urgent in national interest. See, mines and minerals are a stateless subject, but parliament can also regulate it, make laws if it is urgent in national interest. If you make this kind of statement, then everything is urgent in national interest. Same goes for industries. Entries 7 and 52 of Union List say the same thing, that if it is urgent in national interest, then the center can regulate it. And center has practically monopolized it. It has excluded the states from controlling these sectors, right? Trade and commerce is under entry 33 of the Union List. Clear? So this is with respect to the state list and the union list. So Dinesh, what's the income, sir? Excise, taxing alcohol, waiting for their share of GST. That's their revenue. What else? That is why the center is very beautifully manipulating the states. Clear? So this is with respect to the money. So larger resources or larger areas of revenue generation are monopolized by center. And that's one reason why the state governments are very upset and angry about these things. Anyway, that's it. These are the issues pertaining to center state relations, and we are done with our discussion on the center state relations. Look at this question. How far do you think how far do you think cooperation, competition, and confrontation have shaped the nature of federation in India? We know cooperation, we know competition. What is confrontation? What are those confrontational features? Tell me, what is a confrontational feature? Under what heading does it come? We have seen cooperative federalism, we have seen competitive federalism. What are those features that are said to be the confrontational features? No, no, don't give me the meaning of confrontation. Cooperative features are confrontation? How is that possible? When there is cooperation, where is the confrontation? No, 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 no. Guys, I had mentioned this on the slide. The unitary features of our Indian constitution, they talk about confrontation, right? So I had very clearly told you to mug up all those points. This has not happened. Confrontation, the areas where center controls the power, that's the area of concern between center and states. Be it the power of appointment of governor, be it the power of emergency provisions, be it control over the financial resources, be it more topics in the union list, all these things. So, confrontation you can mention. Governors, their concerns, the All India Service officers, their issues. Then, historically, we had seen emergency provisions, though now the misuse has come down. Then, control over resources. These are all areas of confrontation, right? What are the areas of cooperation? Directive principles, concurrent list, etc. And what kind of examples will you give? Tell me. Have you seen the recent times center and states cooperating, be it in terms of ensuring security of the country, the wing extremism, left wing extremism, or even during the pandemic? Yes or no? The center and states cooperated. Then for the welfare, both center and states cooperate for welfare policies together, channelize their resources. These are examples to validate your answer on cooperation. What is competitive federalism? Do you remember? Tell me any aspect of competition in the country. Niti Aayog, firstly, constantly gives suggestions on how to improve center state relations. And then there are various indexes, whether it is the Good Governance Index or the E-Governance Index or the Ease of Doing Business Index, right? So mention these points, mention examples here also, mention examples of governors, how in the recent time this has caused a lot of concern for the states, etc. All these things. 150 words only, you have sufficient points. Just don't explain too much. Write the answer with examples. Clear? Done. We are done with our discussion on the center state relations. This brings us to an end of our discussion on the public administration side of things. Now we'll look at the what we can say is the political science side of things, the fundamental rights. Lakshmikant, you can read chapters 13, 14, and 15. And as far as important articles are concerned, Article 240. See, 249 we had already studied earlier also, but still 249, 250, 252, 253, then 263. Then those three articles which talk about center giving binding direction to states for welfare of SC/ST, for official language for a different group of people speaking a different language, then providing for education to kids in their mother tongue for linguistic minority groups, then Article 280, which is a finance commission. Okay, that's it. Done. Now let's move on and understand about the fundamental rights, which is under part 3 of the Indian Constitution. Okay, what is part 1? What is part 1 of the Indian Constitution? Tell me. Union and its territories. What is part 2? Citizenship. Okay. What is part 3? Is fundamental rights. What is part 5? Union. What is part 6? What is part 6? States. What is part 8? Tell me. What is part 8? UTs. Very good. What is part 9? Panchayats. What is part 9A? Municipalities. Part 11 is center state relations. What is part 14A? Any idea? By any chance, if you could recollect, what is part 14A? Very good, guys. Tribunals. Part 14A is tribunals. Okay, now let's move on to discuss the fundamental rights. Part 3, Articles 12 to 35. Now, in this particular chapter, I will not be telling you which articles are important. That is, and this is why. Why will I not tell you which article is important? Tell me. Because every article is important. That's the reason, right? You have to know every article. I'm not saying know it verbatim. All I'm saying is that know those articles as to what is the content of the article. You don't have to mug up the article, but know the content. Clear? Everyone? Okay. Firstly, let me see what you think about rights. Let's begin our discussion with a question only. What is your opinion on fundamental rights or rights in general? Oh, you'll be surprised to know. See, rights are claims of state. Of course, it's wrong. Why will rights be a claim of state? Rights are privileges of a few citizens against the many. Why only few? Now, rights are privileges which are incorporated in the Constitution. Now, we know that every right, firstly, is not a part of the Constitution, right? But beyond that, also, privilege is a very loose word. Privilege means some kind of benefit being given. Claims refers to entitlement. Rights are your entitlements. They are not some benefits or privileges given by the state as and when they feel like. These are your entitlements. You can claim it against the state. That is why rights are not to be seen as privilege, but to be seen as claims. Clear? Okay. Now, one more thing before we move on is to classify rights. See, if you think of this entire process of evolution, we have come from nowhere practically to such an elaborate structure of a globe with countries, continents, right, divisions, provinces, states, etc. But say 2000 years back or 5000 years back, we did have rights, yes or no? If you are born, you had a right to move here and there. It is only that because of advent of you know various forms of governance structures that now our rights are being limited, that you cannot move freely. You want to cross the international borders, you require a passport, a visa. But earlier nothing was required. If you are born, you had a right to worship God in whichever form you wanted. So everybody is born with some natural rights, right to breathe, right? But slowly we realize that rights have to be, codified. They have to be mentioned somewhere, at least some of them, which are very important. So those rights need to be mentioned somewhere in some law. All the rights which are mentioned in any law they are called legal rights. For example, think of this. There is a law called RPA 1951. Yes or no? In this law, there is one section 62 which tells us that you have a right to vote. Okay? Or there is a law called Industrial Disputes Act. Under this law, section 2 says you have a right to strike, take part in strikes, dharnas, hartals. Or a very, very important law in the country, Constitution. Is Constitution not a law? It's also a law. So all these rights which are available to us through laws, they are known as statutory or legal rights. Okay, they are either statutory or legal rights. Now, any right mentioned in the Constitution, of course, it is called a, like say, right to property. Article 300 capital A. Now, what is this right called? You can say, sir, this is a constitutional right. Of course, why? Because it is mentioned in the Constitution. But we can also call it a legal right, or we can also call it a statutory right. Yes or no? But a better word, a more accurate word would be calling it a constitutional right. Lastly, inside the Constitution also, within the Constitution, you have part 3. Here, let's say right to life, for example. Now, what kind of right is this? This you will say, sir, let's call this fundamental right, because in part 3, all the rights mentioned are fundamental. Now, can we call these rights as constitutional? Yes, we can. They are a part of the Constitution. Can we call these rights as legal? Yes, we can. Can we call these rights as statutory? Yes, we can. But a better word is calling it fundamental right. Are we clear on this, everybody? So, if we try to draw some kind of Venn diagram, this would be legal right. Inside this would be a constitutional right, and inside this would be fundamental right. So, fundamental right, constitutional right, legal right. Did we understand this point? It's just like I can call you, say, a person who lives on earth. You can also be called a person who belongs to the continent Asia, or a person who belongs to the country India, right? Or I can call you a Homo sapien. I can call you a, a male or a female. I can also call you by your name. A more accurate description would be calling you by your name, right? So, fundamental rights can also be called legal rights, but we prefer to call them fundamental to showcase their importance. Did we understand this Venn diagram? Are we all okay? If yes, then great. Now, coming to one more question. Why do we call these rights as fundamental? Very strange, right? Why fundamental? Now you will say that, sir, we call them fundamental because they are very essential for the all-round development of individuals, meaning they are essential for somebody's social development, moral development, ethical development, and educational development. Yes, Shahid. Seem to be very nice, but this is a very generic kind of thought out definition. You know why they are called fundamental? Actually, the real reason is that the rights mentioned in part 3 are protected by the fundamental law of the land. What is the fundamental law of the land? Tell me. The constitution is the fundamental law of the land. One more thing. I am telling you here that the constitution is the fundamental law of the land. Why? Did we not fundamental law, the most basic law? What's so basic about it? I mean, constitution came into force in the year 1950. We have older laws which still exist. Yes or no? IPC 1860, Indian Evidence Act 1872. There are so many older laws which still continue to exist. Right? My point is, then why are we still calling the constitution as the fundamental law of the land? Tell me, what's so basic about it? See, there is an article 372 which explains the meaning of this concept. And you know why we call the constitution as fundamental law of the land? Because every law in this country exists only because the constitution allows it to. Every law, older, newer, does not matter. Those laws all derive their power or authority from the constitution. The moment any law tries to violate the constitution, the law is cancelled. If a provision of your law tries to violate the constitution, the provision is cancelled. So, all laws derive authority, power from the constitution, and hence we call this the fundamental law of the land. And because these articles you will see shortly are protected by the constitution, the fundamental law of the land, hence they are called fundamental rights. Are we clear on this? I hope now the understanding is slightly improved on the real reason for calling them fundamental. Now, one more thing before we begin our discussion, or two aspects rather. Point number one, some fundamental rights are available only to citizens. Okay? Some fundamental rights are available only to citizens. For example, Article 15, 16, 19, 29, and 30. Okay, these are available only to citizens. Point number two, please don't have this misconception that your rights are absolute. No, 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 no. In our country, fundamental rights are qualified in nature, meaning they are not absolute. Means what? Reasonable, logical restrictions can be imposed on these rights. Never have this feeling that if it is there, it is absolute, complete enjoyment. No, 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 no. Our rights will have limitations on them. Limitations imposed by the state or also sometimes other people. Clear? Okay. Armed with this basic information, let's now begin our discussion on the rights. But before that, one very important point to understand is that when we are discussing on these rights, some rights are available against the state. So we have to have a clarity on what exactly is the meaning of state. So Article 12 defines a state very simple. The parliament, the assembly, of course, the council, they are a part of state. Government of India, government of state are considered state. Local bodies like panchayats, municipalities are considered state. And other authorities. Now, this is where the problem comes. What is meant by other authority? Is Byju's a state? Tell me. Is Byju's a state or part of state? Now, you are saying no, but why? Why no? Answer is correct. Why no? Because there are some elements which make Byju's a private entity. Now, this concept came up way back in the 1980s. There was a case in REC Srinagar, Regional Engineering College of Srinagar, which is now known as NIT Srinagar. NIT Srinagar or then REC Srinagar, it was one of the 15 colleges which was sponsored by Government of India, right? Government of India sponsored these colleges and also funded it. Now the point is, there was this individual, Mr. Ajay Hasia, and some other people. For their selection in the REC Srinagar, they had obtained very good marks in the written examination, but they scored very poor marks in the Viva Voce, that is the interview. Their claim was that the interview process was not fair. In fact, some of them said that we just entered the room, our name was asked, and we were told, leave, go, interview over. 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So they challenged this result on the grounds of violating right to equality, equal treatment of everybody. Now, REC Srinagar said that you cannot claim all these rights against us. Sorry, we are a private organization. We are registered under the Jammu and Kashmir Registration of Societies Act 1898. So the Ajay Hasia case went to Supreme Court, and in this case, Supreme Court clarified what exactly would make any body be covered under the definition of state for part 3. This is only with respect to fundamental rights. That is part 3. Don't use the definition everywhere else. So, as far as fundamental rights are concerned, certain types of bodies will be considered to be a part of state. What will their features be? Number one, if any body is created by a statute, law, or an executive order, Lokpal, CBI, part of state. Simple. If it is substantially controlled or financed by the government. Now, what is substantially controlled and financed? There is no definition. But Supreme Court said that, see, in our opinion, substantial control would mean the control over an organization wherein the organization may not be able to perform or survive without government funds. Meaning the organization is largely dependent on the government for its funds, for its day to day operation. So, substantially controlled or substantially financed by the government. That's also there. One more thing, if it performs any public or a sovereign function, example, police, example, intelligence, they are all a part of what? They are all a part of definition of state. And finally, if it enjoys government monopoly. Today, if the government says that in our country, orange colored clothes will be manufactured by only RSS, no other factory, etc., can manufacture orange colored clothes, then maybe in that particular domain, that particular organization can be called a state because it has been given monopoly by the government. Are we clear? For example, Byju's is not a part of state. It's a private organization with no government funding, no government control. But tomorrow, if the government says all coaching institutes have to shut down, Byju's will be the only coaching institute in the country for UPSC. Then Byju's will be considered to be a part of state because it has been given government monopoly. Are we clear on this? So this is the definition of other authorities. One small point is, tell me, these bodies which are covered, one very important body is not covered here. Can you see that? A very, very important body is not covered. Please tell me which body. Yes, of course, some of you have mentioned it. Absolutely correct. What is not covered? Judiciary is not covered. Right? Judiciary is not covered here, sadly. What about this body called BCCI? The Board of Cricket Corruption, sorry, the Board of Control for Cricket in India. What about BCCI? Is it a part of state? Of course not. BCCI is not a part of state. Are we clear? BCCI is just a registered society, and Supreme Court has accepted on multiple occasions that functionally, financially, administratively, The BCCI is not dominated by the government, so it is not a state. Clear? BCCI. No, Nikhil. I think you misunderstood the meaning of monopoly. Monopoly, if it is self created, it is separate. It's based on performance. If today a company comes up and says that uh, because the performance it starts capturing the entire market, we cannot say it's a state monopoly. Imagine tomorrow, because of the amazing quality of teachers like me, no, not like me, like other teachers at Byju's, Byju's becomes the most popular coaching institute, and other coaching institutes simply shut down. You cannot say this monopoly has been given by the government. So, performance based monopoly will not make you a part of state. If the government issues some order, etc., and says that no other body, there are various other bodies which are running. The point is that those bodies are too small. They cannot be a match to BCCI. It's money power, right? We had this ICL just before IPL, right? So that's there. So BCCI or cricketers do not actually play for India. They are playing for a Tamil Nadu based cooperative which is called BCCI. The big misconception that they play cricket for the country, actually. No, basically, that definition of state is only meant for Article 12. So we have to segregate also what is a part of state in a generic meaning and what is a part of state very strictly for fundamental rights. If by BCCI was a part of state, we'd have reservations in BCCI, right? Very simple. Anyway, moving on now. We'll come to the rights, but before that, one other small point has to be discussed, which is not a small point, a very, very important point needs to be discussed. And this point is Article 13. Now, as far as Article 13 is concerned, it's a very, very simple article. It has two clauses. It has four clauses, but two clauses firstly. Number one, let me help you understand the meaning of clause one. Clause one says that if there was any law in the country which used to exist, say before the commencement of this constitution, IPC, CPC, the old CRPC, Negotiable Instruments Act, Indian Evidence Act, so many laws were there. Those laws, they can continue, no problem. But if any provision of any of those laws violates the fundamental rights, that provision is cancelled. Think of this. Let us say there is a law called IPC. IPC has hundreds of provisions. Hundreds of provisions. If let's assume that this provision violates any fundamental right, this provision is now cancelled automatically. Article 13, Clause 1. All laws in force in the territory of India immediately before the commencement of this constitution, insofar as they are inconsistent with the provisions of this part. Which part are we talking about? Which part? Part 3 of the Indian Constitution, which means fundamental rights. If any provision is inconsistent with, is opposed to, is against any fundamental right, then to that extent of inconsistency, that provision will be void, cancelled, declared cancelled. automatically. Are we clear on this? So, no law can contain a provision which violates fundamental rights, because if it does, that particular provision is automatically void, not applicable. Simple. And that's a very decent provision. Secondly, comes clause 2. It says that clause 1 was for old laws which were there before the commencement of the constitution, which is on the 26th of January 1950. Now comes clause 2, which says state shall not make any law. The state shall not make any law which takes away or abridges. Abridge means to reduce, lessen, which takes away or reduces the rights conferred by this part. Which part? Part 3. So state cannot make any law. They can't make a law which will take away or reduce the rights given by this part. And laws made in contravention opposed to this clause shall, to the extent of the contravention, be void. If you try to make a law which goes against the fundamental rights, that law is cancelled. So even the parliament is not allowed to make a law which takes away our fundamental rights. Did we understand this point? Everybody, tell me. And just to clarify what is meant by law, law has been defined very, very clearly. Law means all these things: ordinance, order, bylaw, rule, regulation, notification, customs or usage. Everything is a law. So the government cannot make an ordinance, cannot issue an order, panchayats, municipalities cannot make a bylaw, no rules can be made, no regulation can be made, no notification can be made, no custom can also exist which violates fundamental rights. Okay, so our fundamental rights can never be taken away. But let's also just read one more article called Article 368. I think you know this article. This article is what? Tell me. What does this article deal with? It deals with the... No answer. Okay. It deals with the amendment of the Indian Constitution. Amendment to the Indian Constitution. Right? Now, let's read. Power of Parliament to amend the Constitution and procedure thereof. Notwithstanding anything in this Constitution, notwithstanding, in spite of, in spite of whatever is mentioned in this Constitution, we don't care. Parliament may, in exercise of its constituent inherent power, amend by way of addition, variation, repeal, any provision of this Constitution. Parliament can add, vary, or even remove any provision of this Constitution in accordance with procedure, that is special majority. What is this confusion? Here you are saying you can't make a law to take away rights. Here you are saying that you can remove any provision. My point is, can we remove fundamental rights then? Tell me. That's a clear-cut conflict, because At one point, you are saying that, how dare you? Don't. But here you are saying that, no, no, no. Whatever is mentioned, ignore it. We can remove anything. Very strange. Direct conflict of two articles. Right? Now, this problem would never have been a problem, but for the government which wanted to take some steps in this regard. So, not right now, but till 1978, there used to be a fundamental right to property. Every citizen had a right to acquire, hold, and dispose, sell property. Look at this. Uh, Back in the 18th, 19th century, these rich zamindars, landlords, they controlled huge tracts of land. And on this land, you would have all these tenants who would till the land for generations and generations. Farmers who were tenants, not landowners. Government wanted to play Robin Hood, take land from rich people and give to poor people. But the problem was, if I make a law that take away property act, right, removal of property act, whatever name, then people will go to court and say, hello, wait, government, article 13 says the state shall not make any law which takes away a right. You are taking away our fundamental right. How dare you? Law cancelled. That's a problem. So government thought and thought and thought what to do. Then it said, let's do one thing. Article 368 says we can amend. So government, what it did was, it did not make a law. It made an amendment. The very first amendment act was made in the year 1951 only to look into this concern. Now, the government amended the constitution, allowing the government to take away land from rich and give to poor people. They impose a ceiling limit, upper limit, beyond which nobody could have land only. All these zamindars became very angry and upset. They ran to the court immediately. What is this nonsense? Absolute nonsense. You are violating our right. Article 13 clause 2 says you can't make a law. Government says can't make a law. Hey, we are not making a law. What is law? Ordinance, order, bylaw, rule, regulation. We are making amendment. Amendment is not a law. If amendment was supposed to be a law, it would be mentioned here in the definition of law. It is not mentioned. And when this matter went to court, Supreme Court also accepted this argument. Yes, government is right. Amendment is different, law is different. Fundamental rights can be amended. Clear? And with the innocent zamindars, landlords waiting, the Supreme Court passed a judgment saying that fundamental rights are amendable. Are we clear on this, everyone? From Shankari Prasad, every time a zamindar's land was taken away, he ran to court. That court, please save my land. But the court said, sorry, rights are amendable because Article 13, Clause 3 does not include amendment under the definition of law. We are amending, not making a law. Done. Now, one more point. In the Sajjan Singh case, why have I mentioned Sajjan Singh case separately here? Sajjan Singh versus State of Rajasthan. This case is important because in this case, while a discussion was going on whether the government can take away your land or not, whether amendment is a law or not, whether the government has a right or the parliament has a right to modify even the fundamental rights or not. One judge, Justice Janardhan Raghunath Mudholkar, Justice Mudholkar made a very important statement. So Justice Mudholkar said, let's see, if you start modifying and amending the fundamental rights, or you start amending everything, then where does this stop? Do you think the parliament should have the power to amend everything? Every damn thing under the sun. What if tomorrow we amend the entire constitution and say that India is no longer a democracy? Then why? Because amendment is not a law. What kind of nonsense is this? This point was raised that there should be some limitation on the parliament, some limitation. But sadly, what happened was that in this case, other judges said, Sir, Justice Mudholkar, please calm down. As of now, don't complicate the matter. Let's ignore it. Now, some people say that Justice Mudholkar was only quoting a Fazlul Qadir Chaudhary case in the Supreme Court in Pakistan in 1963, which made the same statement, right? Or in the Berubari Union also, where the Supreme Court said at Parliament, you cannot use Article 3 to give territory to foreign countries. That's not correct. Your powers are limited. So, this limitation on the power of Parliament was constantly being re emphasized by the Supreme Court. Anyway, come 1967. So, basically, what had been happening so far was that think of this government has a list of all zamindars, and all these zamindars' land is slowly being taken away and being given to poor people. Okay, land taken away, 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 so on and so forth. Now, what happened was after a certain point of time, every zamindar whose land was taken away would go to court. So one Golaknath family also went to court. This Golaknath family was basically two brothers in Punjab called William and Henry Golaknath. These two people, they had 500 acres, 500 acres of land between them. Clear? Now, the Punjab Tenancy Act, which was made under the First Amendment Act, it took away their land. And the government of Punjab said that, see, Golaknath family, how much land do you have? They said 500 acres. So the government said, keep 30 acres each, meaning keep 60 acres, give rest to me. 88% land was taken away and they were left with 12% land. They ran to the court immediately. Court, what is this nonsense? Now, in this Golaknath case versus state of Punjab, 11 judges sitting and deciding. And the judgment came 6:5. That's how narrow the judgment was. 6 judges in favor, 5 against. Supreme Court suddenly had a change of heart. It said Golaknath family is right. No, no, no. Wait. How can Parliament amend everything? No, you cannot. Fundamental rights are sacrosanct. How can you modify fundamental rights? And Supreme Court suddenly said, no. fundamental rights are not amendable. You cannot amend fundamental rights. So what it is not mentioned as a definition? It is basic understanding. Rights and all can't be amended. Tomorrow, what if you modify everything and give no rights to people? Then, so fundamental rights are not amendable. Government was very sad. So interestingly, whenever any court judgment comes, given by the court, you'll always find that one party is happy, the other party is sad. That's how the judgments are, A versus B. But this was a very unique situation where what happened was the government was sad because now they cannot take away people's property. How to play Robin Hood? And when the Golaknath brothers were rejoicing and celebrating, the court said, wait, you guys don't dance so much. What has happened so far has happened. From this date onwards, land will not be taken away. So Golaknath brothers, your land is gone. Sorry. But from today onwards, the government will not take away land. Golaknath family is also sad. Both parties left the court sad. Unique judgment. Anyway, when this judgment came, a very big problem that came in front of government was now how would they follow their policy of what? Their policy of land reforms, land redistribution. How will they follow that? So, this is a reason why, and Supreme Court was trying to interfere with Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi was the prime minister. You are saying Indira Gandhi is wrong. Is that what you are saying? Indira Gandhi, you cannot make a law anymore. Indira Gandhi said, this is nonsense. We have to make a law. And we have to be given the power to amend fundamental rights. Or else, how will you go for land reforms? So, a very, very simple change was made in the constitution in two places. See, if I want to make a law to take away your fundamental rights, what is the problem? You will say, sir, Article 13, Clause 2 is a problem. This is the obstruction right. That this is the clause which is preventing the government from modifying things. Because Supreme Court says that amendment is also a law. After all, is amendment not a law? When we are amending the constitution to add women's reservation, are we not making a law? Tell me. I ask all of you here. When we amend the constitution, don't we consider that as a law in the general understanding? It is also making a law. What kind of nonsense is this? So Supreme Court was actually right that amendment is also a law. Don't make all this nonsense that where is the word mentioned? What if the word is not mentioned? The idea is the same. So Indira Gandhi said that, see, this clause is a problem. It is not letting me amend. Let's do one thing. She modified this Article 13 and added one more line there, saying this clause is not applicable on Article 368. I'll repeat. Indira Gandhi modified Article 13 to add one more clause here, which said this clause or this article is not applicable on amendments, meaning amendments are allowed. Simple. 24th Amendment Act, 1971. Two changes were made. In Article 368, one clause was added. What is that? Nothing in Article 13 shall apply to any amendment. What is Article 13? Article 13 says you cannot make a law to take away rights. That's okay. But that limitation is not available over amendments. Government can keep on making amendments. And secondly, nothing in Article 13 shall apply to amendments. Meaning, We cannot make a law, that's okay, but we can amend. So basically, in short, this change said that amendments are not laws and fundamental rights are again amendable. Again, back to amendable. Did we understand the provision so far? Very simple, very easy to understand. I just gave the story. So basically, the government, in a nutshell now, the government wanted to take away land of people, but the problem was that if I take away your land or property, I am violating your fundamental right. So the government said, we cannot make a law to take away your rights, so we are going to amend the constitution to take away your rights. Supreme Court initially agreed, later on cancelled it. So the parliament said that wait, we are separating the idea only. Law is separate, amendment is separate. We are allowed to make any kind of modification in the constitution. Any kind of modification. Are we clear so far now? Tell me. Deepak, are we okay? No, then what is the problem? Deepak, ask a question. Exact, precise question. No, Arun, Article 13 is still there for laws. Ordinary laws cannot be made. See, when you make a law, it requires a simple majority. When you make an amendment, it requires a special majority. Difference. Please don't treat amendment like any other law. Amendment is a very special kind of law. So you cannot make a law, but you can amend. Difference. Haji Deepak, what's your concern? Concern, please. Which point? Others, are we okay? Great. Now, just to tell you, amendments are not laws. This is what this means, right? Ignore this statement if you're confused. Just remember this statement, that because of this change, fundamental rights were now made amendable. Repeat back the lecture. No, Deepak, that may not be possible. You ask me to repeat everything from scratch, almost 45 minutes of topic. No, that's not possible. Okay? You can ask a specific question. Don't make unreasonable demands just because I allowed you to. Don't do this nonsense. Article 13, clause 4. See, these are simple English words. Understand it. Nothing in this article, meaning whatever is mentioned in Article 13. What is mentioned in Article 13? Article 13 says that you cannot make a law which will take away fundamental rights. That limitation of not being allowed to make a law does not apply on amendments, meaning laws can't be made, amendments can be made. Are we clear? Now, Akshay. So, the point is, in short, fundamental rights are amendable, and not just rights, everything is amendable. Deepak, just follow this statement that rights were amendable. Simple, straightforward. And just to point out a parallel story running in the country. So, this amendment came in 1971, but before that, especially in the Shankari Prasad case, etc., till 1967, rights could be taken away, your property could be taken away. So in 1967, one priest in one temple, this was the temple in the southern state of Kerala, Kasargod district of Kerala, Edneer Mutt. So in this Edneer Mutt, there was a there was a priest called Keshwanand Bharti. So he was a priest in Ednir Mutt, Kerala. Basically, because of the Land Reforms Act, his temple property was taken away from him. And every religious group also has a fundamental right to temple property, Article 26. We'll discuss that later on, maybe tomorrow. So, what happened was that when his temple land was taken away, he was moved to court, especially after the Golaknath judgment. Sorry, now the Supreme Court has said that you can't take away my property. How dare you? Give back my temple land to me. I will run my own temple. In the meantime, this amendment came. Now the Golaknath case, the Keswan Bharti case changed to what? Now the petitioner started saying, how can the government make this kind of change? How dare you say? Supreme Court has clearly said you cannot amend rights. How can you amend rights now? You cannot. This matter went to court, which became the landmark case of Keswan Bharti versus State of Kerala. 13 judge bench. 13 judges sitting together. 68 days of discussions. For 68 days, the case kept on being heard in the court. This is the longest ever hearing. Longest ever hearing in any kind of case. The second highest is the Ayodhya case of 42 days. Third highest is the Aadhaar case of 38 days. This is the longest heard case. Clear? 68 days of constant hearing. And same point. Does the parliament get the right to modify everything or not? For 68 days, this constant thing was being discussed. Eventually, a 13 judge bench upheld the constitutional validity, that's saying yes, yes, yes. This is absolutely correct. No problem. And the judgment was 7:6. 7 people said yes, 6 said no. So the government is very happy. Oh, now we have the power to amend everything. So Supreme Court said, yes, guys, don't worry. Fundamental rights are amendable. Of course, government started partying there only. That yes, now we can keep on amending rights. As the government's lawyers were leaving, the court said, wait, where are you going? Judgment is not complete. The lawyer said, sir, my lords, what happened now? So the court said, let's see, you can amend rights and all, okay, but you cannot amend everything. Lawyers are confused. Sir, what is this? Can't amend everything? You just said we can. You just said that this is correct. The 24th Amendment Act, which allows the Parliament to amend the rights and all, it's correct. The court said, yes, yes, this is correct. I am fully okay that you can amend fundamental rights. No problem. But see, there are some things in our country or in the constitution which are called the essence of the constitution. Essence. Meaning, they are the value system of our country. They are the core of the constitution. They are the cornerstones. Lawyer said, my lords, tell us exactly what you are saying. What is this essence, central idea, the crux, cornerstone, the arc? We don't understand this. Don't give us examples. Don't give us all these no alankars. You please tell us, what do you mean? So the court said, see, there is a very basic structure of the constitution which comprises of some basic features. You cannot modify that. Modify everything else, but not that. An example of this would be what? Let's say you are an individual, you undergo a plastic surgery, nose job, Botox injections, different hair, different skin color also. Then heart transplant is done, liver transplant is done, kidney transplant is done. Everything is changed in your body. Your right hand thumb, that skin remains the same, but everything else has been changed. Now the point is, are you still the same person? Tell me. Your brain has been changed, your lungs have been changed, but a small portion of finger tip, this remains the same. Should we still call you the same person? Is the question. So court said if you change everything, then what is the underlying meaning of the constitution? Sorry, parliament, you can't change everything. We are giving a new concept in the country now, and that concept will be called the basic structure doctrine. Meaning, you cannot change the basic features of the constitution. Everything else can be changed except basic structure of the constitution. Now the lawyer said, my lords, basic features can't be changed. We agree. What are those basic features? Define, please. Tell us. What is this basic structure doctrine? Court said, right now we can't tell you. No, if you insist, tell me, what are those features? Uh, those features can be supremacy of the constitution. That can't be changed. India is a sovereign country. It's democratic. It's republican in nature. That can't be changed. Secular character of the constitution. That can't be changed. Separation of powers. That can't be changed. Federal character. That can't be changed. So some things can't be changed. Right now we can't define it. Maybe in future through multiple judgments, we'll be able to define it. That's how it is. Simple, straightforward. Are we clear? This gave to us the concept of basic structure doctrine. Did we understand this point, everybody? Tell me. Ashay, this is not live session. Are you asking me or are you telling me? Are you the same Ashay from the weekday batch? Haji Ashay, tell me. Same person asking all the amazing questions in the weekday batch. Okay, okay. You are the same person. Of course, creating nuisance always. Here also, coming with your own set of nuisance. Okay. So, as far as the judgment was concerned, please understand that whenever a judgment comes, it is more likely that the effect of the judgment comes from that date onwards, right? So Supreme Court gave the concept of basic structure on this date. So everything that has happened before this date has happened. Are you clear? Gaurav and Dinesh, what has happened now till now has happened. From now onward, we will not. And just to tell you, this 13 judge bench, which actually gave a judgment. Now, if you look at this judgment is against the government only. It is saying that you cannot change some things. And when this judgment came, there were three senior most Supreme Court judges who gave this concept and said yes, right? Justice Grover, Justice Hegde, Justice Shelat. And then one judge, Justice A.N. Ray, who said, no, 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 government is right. How can you restrict government's power? When the time came to appoint the next Chief Justice of India, Justice Hegde, Grover, and Shelat were the three senior most judges. Indira Gandhi bypassed all of them and made A.N. Ray as the Chief Justice of India. Why? Because he was in these six people who said, no, no, what is this nonsense? How dare you uh, take this kind of stand against the government? And he was fully rewarded by being made the Chief Justice of India. So, this is the basic structure doctrine. And let me clarify, there is no definition of what is the meaning of basic structure doctrine or principle. No definition. It just means there are some features which are the value system or core or cornerstones. What are they? The courts will keep on telling us. So there is no definition, there are only examples. Court, however, refused to categorically define the term and left it for future judgments. Okay, Pooja, Arun, basic features can be modified. Yes, it can, with a bigger bench. Not a full 13 judge bench, but a 15 judge bench, Nikhil. We have to have a larger bench to give a judgment. Clear? So don't have this perception that in a 13 judge bench, if 8 judges say yes, things will change. No, no. We have to have a larger bench. Are we clear, everyone? This concept of basic structure can be removed also. If today 15 judges come and sit and be a part of a new case, and they say there's nothing called basic structure, Parliament, change everything. Basic structure gone. Simple. But there is no definition. There are only elements of it, like the unity and integrity of the nation, freedom of the individual, judicial review. Interesting, right? What is judicial review? What is judicial review? Judiciary reviewing the executive and legislative action. That is called judicial review. Yes or no? Judicial review is nowhere mentioned in the constitution. But now Supreme Court says it is a part of basic structure. In the Minerva Mills case of 1980, Supreme Court has said that now the basic structure also includes judicial review. So judiciary can review everything now. Then the parliamentary system, rule of law, harmony and balance between rights and DPSPs, equality, free and fair elections, independence of judiciary. You remember the NJAC was cancelled. The 99th Amendment Act of 2014 was struck down by Supreme Court. On what ground? That it violated the independence of the judiciary. Hence, it was removed. Clear? Then, limited power of parliament to amend the constitution. Access to justice. One more thing. My simple question to all of you. After Keshwan Bharti judgment, where the Supreme Court has said that parliament you can amend, of course, but you cannot amend everything. My question to you is, are fundamental rights amendable? Yes or no? Tell me. Today, as we speak, are fundamental rights amendable? Sir, it's mentioned here only on your screen that fundamental rights are amendable. Fundamental rights are amendable. My point is, court has said that the principles or essence underlying those rights, they are not amendable. Rights can be removed, but the underlying essence of ensuring equality, dignity, etc., those can't be modified. So that's what the court has said. So please let me remind you once again, fundamental rights are amendable, but the underlying meaning or the essence, the crux, the summary of rights, why they are there for, what is the reason for rights, those things can't be modified. Clear? Then look at this power of Supreme Court to issue writs, SLP, etc. Article 142, activism. Activism, Supreme Court has said, is now a part of basic structure. You can't take it away. Power of high courts also, welfare state. All these are examples of what is a part of basic structure. There is no definition of basic structure. These are just examples of basic structure. Are we clear, everyone? These things can't be amended. Extremely sorry. Basic structure can never be taken away. Solve a question first, quickly. Please read the statement carefully and mark the answer, guys. Understand, read, and then mark the answer. Don't jump to mark the answer. Okay. How some of you have marked C? The Constitution of India. Firstly, there is no definition only of basic structure. And this basic structure is not mentioned in the Constitution. Where is it mentioned? Which article? It is just a Supreme Court interpretation. So one is wrong. Now, the Constitution of India provides for judicial review. No, the Constitution does not explicitly or clearly says judicial review. Article 1, Article 2, Article 9, nothing is there. There is no separate article which says this article provides for judicial review. That's also not there. Both are wrong. D. Neither one nor two. Are we clear on this? Everybody. So basic structure is not mentioned in the Constitution. Sir, second option is wrong because the Constitution does not provide for judicial review. Where is it mentioned? Tell me one article which explicitly says that judicial review is there. Tell me which article. It may be in the implied sense, but it is not mentioned clearly. And yes, you can question the Supreme Court, the UPSC's framing. This word provides is slightly vague. So that can be questioned, but Article 21 does not mention judicial review. No, no, no. Are you clear, Akshaya? Problem solved? Dinesh, Prime Minister has no role to appoint CGI. Arey Dinesh, Prime Minister has no role in appointing CGI from what year? Tell me, guys. From what year did we have a situation that it's mandatory that CGI becomes the senior most Supreme Court judge becomes the CGI? When did that come into picture? The third judge's case, 1998, said that the senior most judge becomes a CGI. Before that, it was just happening because the governments allowed it to happen. Are we clear? So this is a question of 1973. We did not have the judge's case then. That is why the power of Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi has done this twice. I think I mentioned once one more example. Remember which example did I mention of Indira Gandhi doing the same thing by bypassing a very, very popular or very intellectual judge and making somebody else the CJI? Yes, Justice H.R. Khanna was bypassed and Justice M.H. Beg was made the CJI in the ADM Jabalpur case or post the ADM Jabalpur case. Anyway, now what are the advantages of basic structure and what is the problem with basic structure? Let's take a break. After break, we'll discuss that. Small break. We'll come back at 12:10 because we'll have lunch at 1. So come back at 12:10 and we'll continue our discussion further. Quick break, please. Welcome back, guys. So now, advantages of basic structure. So tell me, what are some great things? So one simple question to you: how many of you agree that basic structure is a good idea? Let's take a poll. Poll: yes, A; no, B. Okay. Of course, it's a good idea because it keeps the parliament in check. So we discuss what is rule of law. It upholds rule of law. No arbitrary power. We cannot simply rely on the government to have this arbitrary power to do anything. What if tomorrow they modify the constitution, say India is no longer a democracy? Then what do we do? So the powers have to be limited, definitely. It also protects against the arbitrary and random action of the state. And there has been an essence of the constitution, the core value system of welfare, democracy, egalitarian society, inclusive society, uh, protection and preservation of various communities, etc. We cannot modify all these things. If you start modifying these very basic elements, then the entire system collapses. And of course, when you say you have a power to amend, amendment means tweaking the things, fine tuning things. If things go wrong, you modify it, you improve it. Right? The basic idea is if you are having pain in your hands, you solve that problem. You don't chop off the arm only and throw it away. So amendments are like fine tuning and improving the constitution. And parliament has no right to redraft the entire constitution. That is not there, simply. It also keeps a check on this legislative eagerness, populist tendencies. When you have this populist tendency to make a law just to please the masses, that will be limited. All nice things. But then there are some issues also. We cannot say that this concept or this judgment is devoid of any issue. One very big issue is that it depends on subjectivity of the judge, right? That what would be an element of basic structure and what would not would highly be dependent on an individual judge. Point number one. Point number two, there is no set definition. This creates arbitrariness on the part of judiciary. When we say that, hello, government, you cannot behave in an arbitrary fashion, then how can we allow the judiciary to act in a random and arbitrary fashion? Right? So neither the government nor the parliament or even the judiciary, nobody should have arbitrary kind of powers. Then one more point is that people say, it is now acting as an impediment in modification. If I now want to modify the constitution, I have to firstly see whether the judiciary is okay or not. And when the people of the country have chosen me, have voted for me, then who are you to tell me what is right, what is wrong? So it is also seen as an illegitimate interference on the majority rule and prevents modifications. And when we are saying that parliament, you have no power to redraft the constitution, so we also know that judiciary can only interpret the constitution. This concept of basic structure doctrine, this basic structure principle given to us, which article mentions it? Tell me. Is there any article which clearly says there is something called basic structure doctrine? No, it is not. Supreme Court has also interpreted it out of nowhere. So when you are saying that Parliament, you cannot modify everything, you cannot redraft the constitution, Supreme Court should also not try to rewrite the constitution in their own words. So there is no constitutional basis. This also seems like it amounts to rewriting the constitution. That's how it is. Now, one more allegation is that this judgment came with a very narrow majority. Look at this. This entire concept of basic structure came with a majority of 7 is to 6. Had one judge changed their side, one judge changed their side, what would happen? You would not be studying this concept only. There would be no basic structure. Done. So, some people say that this 7 is to 6 majority does not inspire a lot of confidence in the judgment. If a judgment comes 13 is to 0, 12 is to 1, 10 is to 3, makes sense. This 7 is to 6, it's a very, very narrow majority. Very, very narrow majority. So, this is again a challenge with respect to or the issues of this judgment. But to tell you frankly, uh, a very or two rather important elements that we have to appreciate is that it has been rarely used. This concept of basic structure doctrine has been rarely used by judiciary. In the, you tell me, in the last few years, decades, when has the judiciary ever invoked basic structure? Just once in the NJAC. In fact, in the last 30-35 years, just one case. So it is not that the judiciary is misusing it, number one. And number two, there has also been an international acceptance to it. International acceptance in the sense that the Bangladesh Supreme Court 1989, the Anwar Hussain Chaudhary case, or a local court in Uganda. In these countries, it was found that they uh, supported this idea. They quoted in their own judgments the Keshwan Bharti, that in the Supreme Court of India in 1973, a judgment came which says that the parliament's powers cannot be limited, right? So, various international examples are available wherein other countries have used the same concept. So, it also shows that this is being appreciated far and wide. Yes, of course, we have to understand that to allay all the fears, the applicability, the content, the scope, it needs to be defined categorically in unambiguous terms. So we have to have a proper definition and proper usage value of it. Beyond that, I think the judgment is great. It has limited the powers of the majority. It has protected the essence of the constitution as well. That's it. We are done with the basic structure. A question was asked in 2019. Parliament's power to amend the constitution is a limited power and it cannot be enlarged into an absolute power. In the light of this statement, explain whether Parliament under Article 368 can destroy the basic structure of the constitution. Just to tell you, Parliament has tried this before. After the Supreme Court Keshwan Bharti case, it did happen. In 1975, 39th Amendment Act. Here, there was a specific point mentioned that the election of the Prime Minister, President, VP, Speaker will be beyond judicial review. Supreme Court cancelled it. Election of PM, election of the President, election of Vice President, etc. beyond judicial review. And this was cancelled by Supreme Court in 1975 only. The Raj Narayan case. Again, the Parliament tried it through the 42nd Amendment Act of 1976. They tried to add two articles, two clauses, clause 4 and clause 5, saying that amendments cannot be questioned anywhere, saying that there is no limit on the Parliament's power to amend the Constitution, directly violating Keshwan Bharti. But Keshwan Bharti says, judgment says that Parliament's power to amend is limited, and you are saying there is no limitation on the power to amend. This was also cancelled. Cancelled in the Minerva Mills case. So it has been tried, it has been cancelled earlier. Right? So here it's very simple. Mention why it cannot be done, mention the advantages of basic structure as a concept, and also mention some of the possible issues and suggestions or way forward. What's the way forward? Tell me. What's the way forward with respect to basic structure doctrine? Proper set definition. We have to fix the definition, at least define the contours, the boundaries of definition, and only then should we act. Because we should not give anybody arbitrary powers, whether it is the judiciary or the executive. Clear, everyone? That's it. Done with the basic structure doctrine. Now we'll start our discussion officially on the fundamental rights. I think you know this very well. We have 6 categories of rights. So now, Zabir, what is the question, sir? Ask me a factual question, sir. Don't ask me questions which. Okay, Zabir, we'll respond to it. When we come to preamble, then I'll respond to it. Okay? Not right now. It will take away the crux of discussion. Okay? I'll respond to this when we study preamble tomorrow. And I'll give you my opinion also. Okay. 6 types of rights. So I think you already have seen this in your school days, that we have 6 fundamental rights. Now you will basically see the various types of rights under these 6 rights. Okay. So firstly, we have right to equality, Articles 14 to 18, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, and right to constitutional remedies. We also had right to property, which was removed later on. We'll discuss that also when we come to Article 31. So starting with our first group of rights, which is right to equality, Articles 14 to 18. The right to equality largely refers to civil rights. Civil rights. Civil rights meaning what? Civil rights are a group of rights that protect individuals' freedom from infringement by governments, by social organizations, and by private individuals. Right? So, uh, this ensures that everybody is able to participate in the civil discourse in the society without any discrimination. Civil rights mean what? Non discrimination. In short, non discrimination. We will not discriminate against anyone on the grounds of gender, race, origin, color, sexual orientation, ethnicity, religion, any physical disability, whatever. No discrimination. That's the concept. Equality. Uh, right to equality, 5 articles: 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. The first one is Article 14. Equality before law. It has two parts. Observe: equality before law and equal protection of laws. This is Article 14. Very simple as a concept. What is equality before law? A concept borrowed from UK. Equality before law. See, the idea of equality before law is that it is an element of rule of law. What is rule of law? Tell me. We have seen this rule of law. Rule of law as a concept came into picture. I mean, it is not a very new concept. Aristotle also tried to define this idea. But Edward Coke is a person who is attributed to properly defining rule of law. And finally, the British jurist Albert Venn Dicey. So people like Edward Coke and Albert Venn Dicey, they have been given the credit of properly telling us what is rule of law. So, in short, rule of law refers to the absence of arbitrary powers. In short, no arbitrary powers for the state. That is not possible. This is the concept of rule of law. The absence of arbitrary or random kind of power. Your powers have to be regulated. That's why we say rule of law means lex rex. What is lex rex? Law is the king. Don't ever have this feeling that the king is supreme. No, no, no. Law is supreme. The laws in the country are the real king of all the kings. Okay. So, one more element is that there is no special privilege for any person. All manner of people are equally subject to the ordinary laws of the country in the ordinary courts. No special power to anyone, no special benefit to anyone. Everybody is equal in the eyes of law. No one is above the law. Equal treatment of every person. Are we clear, everyone? Equality before law. Everybody is equal in the eyes of law. No special treatment for anyone. We will not have that. But of course, I did tell you in the beginning only that in our country rights are not absolute. There are restrictions, there are exceptions. We'll always have exceptions. Here also we have exceptions, like Article 361. Is it not an exception? Article 361? Yes or no? What is this? Article 361. Do you remember? Article 361 is what? The immunity given to the president, given to the governors. What immunity? The immunity that you will not be arrested, no criminal case, etc. Right? So, if we commit a murder, immediate arrest, jail, punishment. But they commit a murder, no arrest. This is a different treatment, but allowed. Or parliamentary privilege, Article 105 for our innocent MPs, right? Or 194 for our innocent MLAs, right? What is this? The benefit given to every MP, every ML, MLC, that you will not be liable to any court proceedings for whatever you say in the parliament and whatever vote you cast in the parliament. So, freedom of speech, unlimited. And we know very well what happens when you give this unlimited speech to people who do not have the basic dignity and decency to behave. I don't want to quote any name of any person, but we all know what happened in the parliament and what kind of remarks were made against a fellow MP, Danish Ali. So it surprises us, it amazes us at what levels can our parliamentarians stoop to make statements in the floor of the house that is not even fit of being spoken amongst group of friends. So for those who have no idea, one MP from Delhi, one constituency, made a statement in the parliament, extremely derogatory words against a fellow parliamentarian. Let's see what action is taken against them. So anyway, or diplomatic immunity, meaning what? Any foreigner who is a officer who comes as a diplomat, he or she, if he commits a crime in the country, will not be punished by the country's laws. We'll deport him back and the parent country punishes him. For example, if you yourself become an IFS officer and go to some country like, say, Sudan, Somalia, or let's say USA, UK, and commit a crime, that country will not punish you. They will send you back. We will punish you. You can try this in future and you'll get to know that we will punish you. Diplomatic immunity. So this is equality before law. Such a nice concept. Everybody is equal in the eyes of law. Yes or no? Look at this picture. Equality. Such beautiful concept. What do you prefer now? What is better? Equity or equality? Tell me. Looking at the image, if I ask you, what would you prefer? Equity or equality? Equity makes more sense, right? Because there are social imbalances in the system. Rectifies imbalances in the social system, right? So what exactly happens is equality refers to each individual or a group of people given the same resources or same opportunities. Equity recognizes that each person has different circumstances and exact resources are allocated so that there is equality of opportunity. It is very important to ensure that there is equality of opportunity for every individual. So equity tries to fill in the gaps to each based on his need. That's the idea of equity. Clear? A better concept than equality. To further push this boundary and ask you a question, take the example of a person A. This person A earns 1 lakh rupees per year. Per year. A person B earns 1 lakh rupees per month. Now, please tell me, if you are imposing some tax, say income tax, should we impose the same income tax on both the people? Tell me, will that be appropriate? No, but why not? Equality before law. We have to treat everybody equally, right? Wrong. I hope you get it now. That treating people equally may not always be logical. People are placed in different circumstances in their life. So giving equal treatment to all, not justified. Sometimes you have to deliberately treat people in differently. Unequal treatment sometimes is required. And I hope everybody agrees here that we cannot tax this person. He hardly has disposable income. If you tax him, how will he survive? But if you tax him, can still manage sufficiently well, right? So one thing is very clear, we all agree that yes, people cannot be treated in the same fashion. So we have to treat people differently. So one point is differential treatment. But mind you, the discrimination should be positive, not negative. Positive discrimination should be allowed. That is why we are now going to treat people based on their circumstances. People in similar circumstances should be treated similarly. These two people have different economic circumstances. How can you treat them equally? Maybe if there's a person C who earns 1.1 lakh rupees per month, can we treat B and C equally in terms of taxation? Tell me, will that be okay? This is okay. I mean, they are largely in the same circumstance. We cannot have exact circumstance. That's not possible. But they are in the same circumstance. What difference does it make? 10,000 rupees extra. Not much of a difference. So, yes, these two people may be treated similarly. But these groups can't be clubbed together. Or think of a person D who is earning 1 lakh rupees per day. That's also too much, right? Now, can we treat B, C, and D in the same fashion? Tell me. Again, there is a problem. This person is too rich. 1 lakh per day is 3.65 crore rupees, right? He is too rich to be clubbed with them. So, like should be treated alike. People placed in a similar circumstance should be treated in a similar fashion. A very simple example of what we have in our country actually is what is progressive taxation. Income tax, it's progressive in nature. Meaning what? With the increase in your income, the income tax rate increases. Progressive taxation. Increase in income, increase in taxation. Simple. Or reservation. Reservation is a classic example of giving special provisions to certain people who may have been economically, socially, etc., in whatever fashion deprived. This concept has been borrowed from USA. In fact, in USA, they have this thing called the 14th Amendment, made in 1860s, which actually says the same thing: equal protection of laws. We have simply borrowed the statement from there. Equal protection of laws. Now, coming to a bigger question here. A commits a crime of killing somebody. B commits a crime of killing somebody. Okay. Tell me, should we punish A with a lighter punishment because he's poor and B with a harsh punishment because he's rich? Tell me. Both A and B have killed somebody. Should we punish them differently now? Why no? Right now, you said that they should be treated differently. Why not here? Tell me. Why not here? If they are placed in a different circumstance, then why should they be punished with the same punishment? Reason, please. Okay. Reason is very simple. They are placed in a different economic situation. So, economic laws should apply differently. But they are placed in a similar moral situation. So, how can a law be applied differently based on their economic situation if a law is about not killing people? Are you getting this point here? When I make a law to treat people differently, there should be a link also. What kind of law am I making? What's the purpose of the law? This taxation is logical. The purpose of my law is to impose tax. That is why I have to evaluate the financial situation of every group. But if my purpose of the law is to punish people for killing somebody, then the financial situation is of no concern to me. Then the punishment has to be same for everybody. Whether you are Ambanis or Adanis or Tatas or Birlas or some poor person, we don't care. So, two very important points need to be observed. When I make a law, we can check whether the law is actually reasonable or not. Because equal protection of laws always means we are classifying groups. We are treating people differently. But when you are treating people differently, the law you make should be logical. There are two tests. How to properly classify people. Like if I here classify that for killing people with income less than 1 lakh will be given 6 days of jail punishment. People with income more than 1 lakh will be given 100 years of jail sentence. What kind of classification is this? There are two things. Number one, there's a concept called intelligible differentia. Very simple, very simple. Nothing complicated. It simply means people in a similar circumstance should be grouped together. For example, progressive taxation. We are grouping these people together, these people together, these people together. This is called intelligible differentia. Apply common sense when you are differentiating people. Don't treat everybody or don't place all of them in one group. For example, voting right. Voting right is given on the basis of age, yes or no? So we create two groups. Group 1, below 18. Group 2, 18 or above. Two groups have been created. Yes or no? We are placing people differently who are under different circumstance in life. Did we agree on the first point? Did you understand the first point? Intelligible differentia means when you are creating groups of people to treat them differently, they should be in a similar situation. Don't club Ambani and a poor person together and have a same tax on them. That's wrong. Okay. And second point was the killing law here. When you make any kind of law and you are treating people differently, there should be a link between why you are treating people differently and what's the objective of the law. That is called sufficient nexus. There should be a sufficient link between the objective of the law and the classification exercise. For example, think of this tax law imposing income tax on people. A person whose income is 5 lakh rupees per year and a person whose income is 25 lakh rupees per year. Now we can create two groups and place them differently. Okay. And we say that this person has to pay a lesser amount of income tax, say only 5% income tax, and this person has to pay 30% income tax. Is this kind of treatment justified? Yes, it is. There should be a link. What is the objective of the law? Objective of the law is to treat people differently or impose income tax. That's the objective. The objective is to impose tax and the classification is based on income. Link is there. Income tax, income. Simple. Did we understand these two tests? Everybody, is there any doubt? Uh, so, now I'll ask you a question. You respond. In the case of panchayats, if you remember, we discussed about some qualifications. Two-child policy, or even a functioning toilet in the house. Functional toilet. Please tell me, on the ground of Article 14, do you think having a functional toilet meets both the criteria? I'll explain. We are creating two groups. Group 1, do you have a toilet in your house? Yes. Okay, very good. Group 1. Group 2, all those people who do not have a toilet in the house. Two groups have been created. People under different circumstances are grouped differently. First test is met. Yes or no? We have placed people differently. Now let's come to second test. There should be a link between the objective of the law and the classification exercise. What is the objective of the law? Democratic decentralization. What is the objective of the law? People's participation. Now, can anybody please explain to me the classification exercise is based on Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Please explain to me what is the link between these two. Tell me, what's the link? There is no link. These two are separately very good things. But is there any link? There is no link. What kind of law is this? This law violates Article 14. Are we clear? There are various laws which may violate Article 14. There should be some link. There's no link here. But still, the law continues. So Article 14 can very easily be violated, and it depends on how you present the facts. For example, somebody can go to court and simply say that, sir, why is the UPSC cutoff age to take part in exams 21 years only? Why? What is so special at 21 that cannot be attained at 20? I am 20 years and 11 months. So suddenly, when I wake up on the 21st birthday, am I more informed? Am I more intellectual? No. So why is this law? A problem is that we have to have some kind of line before that and after that. That's why we have these age factors, right? But if you delve deeper, Article 14 can very easily be violated. I'll give a very nice example and we'll close for lunch. There was a law in the country called Section 497 under IPC. Adultery. What is adultery? Adultery means extramarital affair, having any kind of illicit relationship outside the wedlock, outside marriage. So a male A is married to a female B. Now this female B gets into a relationship with a male. Now this female B gets into a relationship with a male C who may be married to a female D. So what you are witnessing here, this is adultery. Are we clear? And illicit relationship. CRPC and IPC said that. Now, if I ask you a question, in this particular situation, who has committed the wrong? Tell me, who is committing the mistake? Please tell me. B and C, they are both wrong. But the law said that only men will be punished. Women will not be punished. Now, tell me, between A and D, who is suffering? Because of this illegal relationship, who is suffering? A or D? Both are suffering. Yes or no? Both are suffering. So, since both are suffering, who is saying D? Why is A not suffering? Sherlin, both are suffering. If both are suffering, both should be allowed to complain, but only husband could file a complaint. Strange, right? So weird and strange. Why? This was based on the Victorian concept of what? Number one, the wife is supposed to serve her husband. How can somebody who serves you complain against you? See, differential treatment. And second, the belief was that men are moral corruptors, women are innocent beings. It is a man who has corrupted this woman. That is why he should be punished. So basically, what you are doing is you are creating two groups, men and women. Can men and women be treated as two groups? Yes, they can. Of course, they are different people. But here comes the point. You are treating them differently based on morality. If you treat men and women differently based on physical parameters, then that rationale is okay. So a woman may be given a longer leave when it comes to, say, uh, childbirth. Maybe in future we can start giving women additional leaves in their menstruation days. That's possible. So differential treatment on physical features is possible. But differential treatments on morality makes no sense. The objective of the law is to punish for a moral crime. And the classification is that gender and morality are linked. It is not linked. Can people claim here that no, men are only moral corruptors, women are not, or vice versa? Anybody can be a moral corrupter. So, this law actually violated Article 14 and hence was struck down by the Supreme Court in the Joseph Shine case. A classic example of how Article 14 can be violated. Are we clear, everyone? Any doubt here? Joseph Shine. Joseph Shine case. In this case, we found that the court actually cancelled this. Let me write somewhere. Joseph Shine or Shiny. I mean, it depends on which area we are referring to. Clear? So, this is a classic example of how the violation may happen of Article 14. Clear? Okay. We are done with Article 14. Solve this question quickly. No, Ganesh, this law is no longer there. Don't worry. Please solve this question. Oh, sorry, poll. Done. Very simple and easy. Rule of law. Limitation of power. Yes or no? Limitation of power. Rule of law. Equality before law. Rule of law. Civil rights. Article 14, which is a part of rule of law, civil rights. Article 14, equality before law, rule of law. No arbitrary powers. So, 1, 2, and 4, C is the right answer. Okay. Solve one more question. I will give you the answer for this question. Don't, or okay. I'll give you 30 seconds to solve this question. Question is not really important. What is mentioned is important. Quickly mark the answer. Some of you have marked Article 32. We have not even studied Article 32. At least apply some common sense. This is the right answer. Article 14. But read the statement. Very important. A legislation, a law which confers, which provides the executive or any administrative authority And now keep focusing on these words: unguided power, uncontrolled power, discretionary power, unlimited power, arbitrary power, unfettered power in the matter of application of law violates Article 14. This means whenever any body, any individual, any association, any group, the state, the executive, the parliament, the judiciary, whenever they get an unguided, uncontrolled, discretionary, random, arbitrary, unfettered, unlimited kind of power, Article 14 gets violated. Are we all okay with this idea? Yes or no? Great. That's it. Let's end our discussion here only. We'll take a break and come back at 2 or come back at 2:05. Don't worry. And we'll continue our discussion further. Okay? Break, please, guys. Leaderboard. Niranjan and Pooja, toppers for the day. And then others. Okay. Break, please.